there's something I need to let you guys know. If you don't know me by now, I pride myself on the audio quality of the show. Whether it's the show or I'm on set or doing something for film, I am a stickler when it comes to audio quality. Well, I have been hoping to get this one guest on for a while, and we got him on, Randy Sutton, but I committed the ultimate fail as a audio engineer. And let me just say I lost the good quality recording during the interview, so we're going to have to go with the computer quality. So bear with us. It's still a fantastic interview. I know, guys, I'm like in the fetal position because this is one of the biggest interviews of this entire just mission. And what happens? My audio shits the bed. So, hey, stick with us. It's still a good interview. I will redeem myself moving forward. I love you guys. And here we go. Well, what is going on, everybody? This is your girl, Pam, with 20 Taps. I am actually joined today by a really cool guy. I got the pleasure of seeing him at the Great American Summit, not even a few months ago. And this dude, the more I'm looking at you, Randy, but the more I learn about you, the more I'm more just excited. And thank you so much for being on. I've got retired Lieutenant Randy Sutton on right now with us. Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, totally. As soon as I heard your story at the summit, I was like, I have got to know this guy. I've got to know you for so many different reasons. I'll try not to get emotional. I try not to cry too much, but if I cry, it just happens. But law enforcement in general is very near and dear to me because I was like 14 when they put me in the Police Explorers. So they were kind of already molding me to be a cop, my family, and went on to the Coast Guard instead. And it's still very much a big passion of mine. My dad's former chief of police. This is my blood. You're my brother. You're my family. And first off, thank you for being here. It's seriously an honor. I don't want to
it really is my pleasure.
Absolutely. And for those that don't know you, you were a police officer, retired police officer. I'm going to give a quick rundown. 30 plus years between Jersey and Vegas. And actually, if you could help introduce yourself to our little family,
sure.
You do a better job of it than I would.
No, probably. I think I might know a little bit more.
A little bit.
But I spent 34 years as a cop, 10 in a little community in Princeton, New Jersey. And then I got bored there because it was a 30-officer police department and uprooted myself and came out to Las Vegas and joined the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, where I spent the next 24 years. I retired as a lieutenant, field lieutenant, and I've done a number of other things along the way as well. Excuse me. I was one of the most featured officers on the television show Cops. I was on a number of seasons of that. And from that, I actually wound up getting a role in the movie Casino and got in the Screen Actors Guild from doing that and been doing movies and television ever since.
That's awesome.
Written a number of books. My first book was called True Blue, Police Stories by Those Who Have Lived Them. And it was a compilation of my writings and stories from cops from around the nation. And I donated all the royalties to the fund that gave money to the widows and orphans of the New York City Police Department and Port Authority for those who were killed in the line of duty in 9/11. And that's what launched my writing career. I've written 3 books since then, and I have another one coming out that I'm very excited about, coming out in June, called Rescuing 911, The Fight for America's Safety.
That's awesome.
And I'm excited about that. And then I've done, I'm a commentator for Fox News and for Newsmax and One America and HLN, a bunch of other media outlets. And most importantly, though, I am the founder and run an organization called the Wounded Blue, the National Assistance and Support Organization for Injured and Disabled Law Enforcement Officers, a nationwide charity that helps injured and disabled officers, whether those injuries are physical or emotional and psychological. We've helped thousands of police officers over the years.
I love that. And thank you for your intro, because I would not have nailed it as good as you just did. But one thing I wanted to do, because part of the Wounded Blue, or a lot of the mission, is tackling a lot of the stuff that departments may not do for retired police officers, medically retired, or what have you. That's where you guys kind of bridge the gap. But before we really talk about that, I'd really love the listeners to listen to your story in particular. And it's so funny, real quick. I saw you on Two Cops, One Donut, and I'm like, I heard about your goddaughter, Jackie, and my mouth hit the floor. I'm just like, oh my God, this guy's got so many amazing stories. And guys, just stick with us, because the one thing I kind of want to introduce our family to you is, we give people a safe place to share their stories of trauma and tragedy, but how they've been able to overcome it, because somebody needs to hear that. People need to know they're not alone. We need to break the stigma of mental health.
Yes.
First responders, police officers, and I get it because I was there. And when I heard your story, it was just like, I can't even explain it. You talk about God moments and just how like somebody put you in a bubble and protected you. It was a story, I know you got a lot, but the one you shared in particular at the Great American Summit, if you remember that one, I believe it was the one where you were in a shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Could you take us back, kind of help our listeners understand what that looked like, what you went through, and what the hell happened that led you to where you are today?
Sure. Well, let me say this, that every police officer who has spent any time at all in the streets has had experiences that we all share in common. Stories about fear, stories about tragedy, stories about injustice. The entire spectrum of life is experienced by a cop. And much of that is traumatic. So none of us walk out of the job the same way that we walked in.
Right.
And we evolve. We evolve as human beings. We evolve as police officers. And there are moments that affect us for the rest of our lives, positively or negatively. And I've had my share of those moments. And the story I'm going to share with you now was a pivotal moment in my life. It changed the trajectory of my life in a very profound way. And so I'm going to take you back to a few decades ago. And even though this incident took place several decades ago, it is very much a part of my life today. And it involved a pretty serious gunfight. An individual, now we call them active shooters. An individual dressed up like a ninja, all in black, his karate gi, and armed himself with a handgun, draped bullets around his body and a sword, and went off and started shooting at kids at a high school dance. And when this report came out, I was literally just 2 blocks away. And I responded to it. I arrived, and at first I thought the call was fake because it was so bizarre. But it was very clear that this was the real deal, because there was a couple on a double date and they were following the suspect, and they were on the phone with 911 giving us full description and where he's walking, et cetera. So now I know that this is the real deal. And you're coming into what could very well be a life-altering situation that you recognize, immediately. When I arrived, there was another patrol car arriving as well, and they had the suspect lit up with their headlights and their spotlights, and the guy's walking right towards them with a gun in his hand, dressed just like the description. And I expected the next few seconds that they were going to shoot him. He was going to kill himself. He was going to run. He was going to drop the gun and surrender. But he did nothing of those. He nonchalantly walked right towards the patrol car, holstered his gun, and just walked right by those 2 officers who were standing there holding their guns going, well, shit, what do we do now? And as I pulled up, our helicopter gets there above us, and he's walking. He now makes a quick left-hand turn. He's walking up an apartment complex driveway, and there's a bunch of people at the end of the driveway. And now it's that decision-making time. I can't let him get to those people. But I don't want to shoot him in the back, and my backdrop isn't very safe. So I decided to try and take him physically. And I run up behind him, he hears me, he turns, and when he turns, I kick him right in the stomach. And he draws his gun, and we were literally toe to toe. We both fired our weapons at exactly the same moment. Our gun muzzles were almost touching, and I fired 2 shots and my gun jammed. And now I'm standing there with literally a useless gun. His didn't jam. He was still shooting at me, and we are literally face to face. And I wasn't wearing my body armor that day. I was literally waiting to feel what it was going to be like to die, to feel that bullet enter me. I had no cover. There was nowhere I could go. So I rolled down onto my back, and I twisted from side to side. And then he's trying to shoot me, and it was just a surreal moment. The helicopter is shining their light on him. The helicopter pilot saw that his muzzle flash, saw me go down, and radioed, officer down, shots fired. The 2 officers that got there before me, they're shooting at him now, and their bullets are zinging over my head. And then my old partner tried to run him over with his car, but hit a cement stanchion instead. And his patrol car basically sounded like a major collision. But it took the suspect's attention away from me long enough to get up and re-engage him. And I cleared my weapon, and we were to get back in the gunfight. And that gunfight lasted. I emptied my full mag, did a combat reload, and I'm still banging it out with him. And thinking, I suck as a shot, man. I can't hit. And then he turns and he ran, and chased him, and he made his last stand around the corner, and that's where it ended. And I was not hit by one bullet during that entire encounter. Not scratched. My first 2 shots were deadly wounds. He was hit right in the chest, but it isn't like TV, and people don't act the way you think they're going to. So when they did the autopsy, he had 43 gunshot wounds at the end of the day. So he didn't know he was dead, and he was still shooting at me. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I try to, in my role as a commentator for law enforcement, I try to bring the reality out. But that was a life-changing moment for me, Pam, because it started me on what I call my journey of why. Why did I live and he not? And so it began a soul-searching mission, which I'm still on today.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me ask you this before I forget. First off, thank you for sharing that. It's not easy my brother-in-law he's a state trooper here in Texas. He's been in 9 shootouts that I know of.
Wow.
And he's just because he did a lot of other secret scroll op stuff that I can't really talk about, and he won't tell me, which that's cool. But there was just some really bad stuff there. And I think about my dad. He was shot when he was a cop. And it's just until you hear the story from you guys yourselves, it's like we have veterans that come on, and we know similar stories. We got similar stuff. And it's almost like expected to be heard from the veteran community. But when you start hearing about the other first responders, police, firefighters, and you start to hear their stories, it's just different, man. So thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you this. When you went through all that, it's time to decompress. And we know that being desensitized is a very real thing, because you got to keep doing your job. Did you take that home with you?
Oh, absolutely.
And what did that look like?
Well, I didn't face darkness. It was more of all right, so this has happened. I need to deal with it the way I deal with it. And here's the truth about that. We all process life's experiences in different ways. There's no wrong, there's no right. And I fully believe that I became a better police officer and a better human being as a result of that experience.
Yeah.
It shaped a journey for me, a journey that I think led me to where I am now, creating an organization that helps injured and disabled officers. I don't know that I would have been suitable for it had I not gone through what I went through. So, there is post-traumatic stress injury, there's post-traumatic stress disorder, there's also post-traumatic stress growth. And that's one of the things we don't talk about nearly as much as we should.
I think that's the first time I've heard anybody call it that, post-traumatic stress growth. Because it's usually disorder or just drop the D, it's post-traumatic stress. It's one or the other. And then injury, of course, but I've never heard it put growth.
Well, it's a very real thing. I've talked to many who have experienced very traumatic things, and the journey that it led them on, they also viewed it as bettering themselves as human beings. So for post-traumatic stress growth is very real. It isn't talked about that much because it isn't the traumatizing action. It
Right.
is actually something positive that can grow out of trauma.
I love that. I'm going to start using that because it's actually celebrating.
I didn't trademark it, so feel free.
Yeah. But it's like, it's learning to celebrate the wins, of your traumas, because there are wins that come out of all this stuff. You had suffered, correct me if I'm wrong, you had suffered a stroke. Is that correct?
Yes. I was in my patrol car riding. I was at the time a lieutenant. I was the watch commander. And I had a young officer with me, which is what I did when I was watch commander, so I could get to know my people. And this poor young man, his first day he'd ever ridden with me, and the last. And we're driving down Las Vegas Boulevard, the famed strip, at 2:30 in the morning. And I literally felt my brain slowing down. And I knew that I was having a stroke. And I stopped the patrol car and told him, "Get me medical, I'm having a stroke." And he looks at me like, is this part of the lieutenant messing with me? And he realized that no, I wasn't. And I got out of the car to go around to the passenger side in case he needed to get me to the hospital. And in seconds, I was speaking gibberish. Knowing that I was speaking gibberish, it was truly one of the most frightening moments. It was the most frightening moment of my life. Completely out of control. Then I lost the ability to speak, and then I lost the ability to move, crumpled to the pavement. And that was my last night as an active duty police officer. And it was devastating. 3 weeks before that, my mother had died in my arms. About a month before that, I was involved in a fatal shooting, another one. And so there was a lot going on in my life. But it turned out that I had a very serious heart condition that I was unaware of, and it caused the stroke. And then it caused, the aftermath, which was I lost my career. I lost my mom. And there was a great deal of trauma going on there. I mean, probably more so than I had ever experienced.
You lose your identity, right?
Yeah, it was, what do I do now?
Holy moly.
And then the unthinkable happened, that my own department turned its back on me and just said, "We're not paying your medical bills."
That's what I really want to talk about.
Yeah.
And mostly because when you were sharing that story in particular, I'm like, dude, this sounds like the VA, or it sounds like whatever,
Yeah.
just any civilian job that's willing to turn their back or not pay or cover your ass. It's like, what?
Well, that was my reaction. I said, what do you mean? I got the denial letter. I got to open the and it said, "We're not paying your medical bills." Like, what are you talking about? And then you get put into a machine. You're no longer a human, right? The department doesn't give a damn now. You're just excess baggage. And I went to go see the sheriff, a guy who I'd served with for 24 years. And I showed him the letter. I said, how do you treat me like this? And he said, Randy, this isn't personal. It's just business. And it was to them. It was just business. They were hoping that they were going to delay paying my medical bills long enough for me to die, because then they would just not pay it. So I beat them, forced me to go to court, took a year, ruined my credit, bill collectors knocking on my door. And that was my first experience with the system that I came to find out that would be my nemesis and the nemesis of thousands and thousands of other police officers across this nation. And when I retired, because I was so visible in the law enforcement community, cops started reaching out to me with their horror stories about the system. And I thought, okay, wait a minute, hold on a second. There's got to be a resource for these men and women. They feel abandoned. They feel alone. They feel suicidal. They feel worthless. And realized through my research that there was no national resource. There is if you die. If you die, your family's good. You're going to get money from the government. You're going to get, Backstoppers is going to pay. There's all kinds of cool things if you die. If you live, not so much. And so we created the Wounded Blue, which is the National Assistance and Support Organization for injured and disabled law enforcement officers. And we're constantly in the fight. I work 7 days a week. I probably put in 60 hours a week. And to run a nonprofit that I take no money from, I live on my pension, and I do this along with my team, all who have been shot, stabbed, beaten, run over, screwed up, and screwed over, because we know what it feels like. And we do not want anyone else to walk this journey by themselves.
I think putting together a team that just like that is exactly what is needed. People that have been there, people that understand, people that have been screwed up, everything you're talking about, instead of just a regular person that maybe read it in a book and might maybe understand it. It's like, you don't get it, dude. You're not going to get it. Did I hear that you, up to date or thus far, you guys have assisted over 1,400 officers? Is that correct?
14,000 officers.
14,000. Sorry, my bad. Forgot the zero.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
It's astonishing. It's an astonishing number. That's the need that is out there. It's incredible.
Wow.
I mean, literally, and we're adding more people. We've done this with a relatively small team of people, and everybody's a volunteer. Some of these men and women, they're working 40, 50 hours a week just talking to people who are troubled like them. And it's amazing work, because literally, I can tell you, I've had at least 5 people tell me that we saved their lives. It doesn't get any more important than that.
No.
And if that's the number who personally told me, I know that there are probably hundreds of lives that we've saved.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing. I love the fact that you chose to do something about it instead of just sit on the sidelines and wait for somebody to do something about it. You chose to put your reputation.
Well, I can tell you that this was not the path that I would have seen for myself. After I retired, I'm in Vegas, so there's a lot of opportunities here to make some serious money. I was offered a couple really good jobs with some casinos, but the need for what I do is too important for me to turn my back. And I get a decent pension, I get a disability, and I will take that, and I will, my journey was written for me, This wasn't something I would have chosen to do, but just like the gunfight there, that I just told you about. Sometimes our pathways are put in front of us, and if you listen, I think that you do yourself good, and you do the what life is about.
Yeah.
It's this place before you.
It's funny. It's not funny, but it was mentioned. I got the privilege to interview Taya Kyle like last year, Chris Kyle's wife. And one thing she said, she's just like, if we can celebrate, or if the military can celebrate your physics wins, why can't they celebrate your mental health wins? And I'm like, man, that resonates kind of true. And I know you talked about it a little bit with the guys on Two Cops, One Donut, but it's like, we got to break the stigma. And if people don't feel safe enough to go to their command to talk about their shit or say, hey, I got a problem, then we got a problem. And
right. And that is probably the biggest issue facing law enforcement, is the distrust that officers feel for their administrations when it comes down to their emotional and mental health.
Yeah.
And that's why what we do at the Wounded Blue is so critical, because we are literally a resource for every cop in America. And we're a resource for every department in America too, if they choose to use us. And many do. I mean, there have been lots of police agencies and chiefs that reached out and said, Randy, we're not in our comfort zone here. Can you guys come in and work with us? And we had boots on the ground after the January 6th incident in DC. We've had boots on the ground at mass casualty events, helping cops deal with that, with traumatizing events such as the murder of one of their partners. We will literally send people to the scene, and it's amazing what comes out of that.
And I love that a lot of people, higher ups, chiefs, I have a friend who was former chief of police out in Salinas, California. And she was reaching out to me for resources for her guys. She's like, what resources do you have that I could potentially help implement with my department, with my guys? And it was good to see somebody of a higher level up, the chain, really want to take care of her department.
We are seeing a much greater awareness, and we're seeing some police leaders that are taking it really seriously.
Good.
And so that is good. Believe me, we see plenty that don't, that create the problem instead of help solve it. But I definitely see a trend beginning that is uplifting from a number of higher level administrators.
That's awesome. Well, real quick, kind of in a nutshell, what does your foundation provide for
our main support is actually peer support. We're all over the country. We see our motto is never forgotten, never alone, because all these officers, once they get injured, feel forgotten, feel alone. So we provide peer support. We've got tremendous resources. For instance, addiction is often a problem that comes along with trauma, and we have lots of resources to get people treatment. We have resources to get people into psychological counseling. We have resources that help get public safety officers benefit if they become critically injured and disabled in the line of duty. And so each individual is different. So having a wide variety of resources at our disposal is critical to accomplish the mission.
I got to tell you, Randy, I'm so proud of the mission and what you guys have been doing already.
Well, we haven't even hit our stride yet. We're gonna start creating chapters across the United States that will assist in our mission. We're calling them divisions. St. Louis division is going to be coming online pretty soon, and we're going to be looking for people who want to join us, both as peer team members if they have been injured or disabled in the line of duty or faced serious trauma. Also, those who want to support us. It's very, very difficult to raise money, and we are in critical need of raising money. So anybody that wants to help us, I urge them to go to our website, thewoundedblue.org, take a look at what we do, see how we can help you or your family. And if you can help us, please do. And also, if for those that are in business, you want to become a corporate sponsor of the organization or our events, connect with me personally, Randy at thewoundedblue.org. It's Randy at thewoundedblue.org.
That's awesome, man. Well, we're definitely going to tag you and put your website out there and help push us along, and count us in for sure to help out in any which way we can, whether it be just support or a platform for people that are ready to share their stories or whatever. Like, we're here for you guys.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on your show.
Absolutely. It's our honor. Let me just say that. Real quick, before we jump off, what's next for you guys? I know you got a lot of stuff coming up. And
we have a law enforcement survival summit in October in Terre Haute, Indiana. That's going to be our main training event. It's unbelievable. We did our first one last October. It was incredible. I got the best names in law enforcement presentations coming: Kevin Gilmartin, Dave and Betsy Smith, Jason Schechterly, Mark Lamb. I mean, the A team is coming. Every aspect of surviving a law enforcement career. It's going to be bad ass.
Is that on your website too?
It will. We're just about to announce it.
Cool. Well, hell, man. Hey, I can't believe my recorder dropped. Like, I don't know what that'll happen. I have to check it out. But we have a good show right here, a good recording. I can't thank you enough for being on.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And I really got to run. Unfortunately, I got an appointment I got to get to.
Same here. I appreciate you. And
okay.
I'm sign off for my listeners, but if you got to jump off, I appreciate you. We'll be in touch though. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
Take care.
See you.
Bye. All right. Well, holy crap. What a dude. So thank you guys for sticking with us. We had a little bit of a malfunction, but hey, it is what it is. And your girl will not have that moving forward. So, like I said, man, if you like this stuff, like, subscribe. We're going to put all the links down below in the comments and on all the description stuff of these episodes. Thanks for being with us, man. We are growing, and I'm so stoked. So stoked. I love each and every one of y'all. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this episode with people who you think you need to hear it. We'll see you later. Bye.